Kirk and the football program, they are ahead of the curve when it comes to spring football because you may have noticed the number of top programs are canceling spring games, not going to play spring games this spring. I commented on the last show that we did this afternoon on the national channel that I would mandate as commissioner of college football, but of course everyone can make up their own rules. I'll be at a conference, a program, whatever they want to do concerning this type of situation, but I would mandate a spring game. And well, Iowa fills that need to the extent that for the fans that want to go to the game that maybe can't afford or don't have the opportunity to go to a regular season game, they have a fan experience. So that is my number one objective concerning spring football, is not that it's on TV for people to watch a spring football game, because it's not a football game. It's number one about the fans being able to experience the football team when there are families out there that do not have the opportunity financially or logistically to do so during the fall.
What would be wrong with actually playing a exhibition style game in the spring in place of a prototypical spring game or open practice?
Well, I think the injury factor, but obviously they do that, in private. There are sessions, obviously they're going full go.
I'm talking about, but I'm talking about between different programs.
Well,
I mean,
injuries.
if you're gonna go full pads at some point, why not get the fan really? Because look, if you're gonna try to get people in seats for this open spring practice or spring game, I know Iowa's sort of been an anomaly as it relates to how they format their open practice, open game. But I'm just saying, like, why not? Or you could play UNI. Hey, Iowa could play Northern Iowa. Hey, this would be an opportunity where playing a bunch of FCS schools may not be a horrible thing. I don't know if the FCS schools, they might say it's not worth, because we get, they normally get paid to go play somewhere. I don't know how that would work, but I would certainly think that'd be intriguing. Be a way to spice up the long off season.
I would think that the big program in this case would not see that as being beneficial, because you put yourself in a position that if you lose, you look bad, but you don't want to put in the kind of effort to win the game necessarily. You're out there to practice, to work on situations and skill sets and all of that.
But it doesn't count. So it's
I know it doesn't count, but it just looks bad. It would look bad if Iowa lost to Northern Iowa in a scrimmage.
I'll tell you what would look. I tell you what would look pretty good. Selling $20 tickets times 60,000 seats, which is what, $180,000 just on
1.8 million.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I put the decimal point in the wrong spot. So I mean, I'm just telling you. I mean, think about it. That's $20 a seat. You're telling me they couldn't sell that out? They could sell that out. Yeah, I don't know if the money would be there to, because you got to pay somebody to do that. I mean, it's not like these schools are just gonna. Well, I mean, maybe they would do it voluntarily. Hey, maybe you and I could allocate a third of the stadium or a fourth of the stadium, whatever it is, and hey, it's not a long drive. I don't know. I think there's ways you can probably do it. I know football's a little. Hey, they're playing all these extra games now at the playoff, and now the Big Ten's talking about having multiple games on conference championship weekend. So I just, it'd be cool to spice it up because it's the longest off season. Even with the playoff extended, it's the longest off season in sports.
I didn't know where you were headed with us taking a quarter of the stadium. To do what?
I'm just saying they could take a quarter of the stadium and reserve it they could sell it through their ticket office. Basically what I'm saying. I'm just trying to think of a way so that it doesn't seem like a no-win for a UNI to come play. It's not, it would never have to be like a raucous, it's not meant to be a raucous environment. It'd be an environment for families, for maybe some students. But I mean, again, as an exhibition, I just think people would treat it like they treat going to a spring game, but I just think you could get a better turnout, potentially.
And lost in all that, what is the date of Iowa spring practice?
April 26th.
April 26th is the spring / game, the family day.
Practice. Yeah. No, it's not. That's Kids Day in the summer. That's the open practice in August. That's the Kids Day is open practice in August. It's just the open spring practice.
That is the finale.
Correct.
When do they start spring practice? Do we know that?
Well, I'll do the math. I don't have the official date in front of me. Great question. Every year you ask me that, and I'm always like, how many
And
weeks?
your approach is to get down there at some point during spring practice and then maybe get that back down there for the finale, whatever they call it.
Well, yeah, I'll at least be there for the open practice on the 26th. But yes, um, and it depends. If I don't know that there'll be extensive, there's always media availability, and for a while they were making athletes and coaches available on Zoom. I don't know what their plan is for this spring. I'll try to find those spring dates, Mark.
Have you thought about going to Iowa State for spring practice since they're right down the street?
For what purpose?
Just to cover it, just for one day, not hang out there for 3 weeks, but to go for maybe
uh,
one practice?
yeah, I guess this fans are probably gonna like. See, a lot of times I say things about Iowa State, and fans get on me about it because I'm a closet clone. But I don't see any purpose in doing that, frankly, Mark. There's nobody on the team anymore that I really care about. I'm not saying that like I don't
Sure.
care about their safety. That's not. I'm just saying I in the past I've known people either on staff or on the roster. I really don't now. So I guess I could do that. I'm not the kind of I'm not a see. Here's the difference between you and me. I am not a college football junkie. All right, I really am not. I mean, as much as maybe you act like I am in some cases, and I love college football, but I watch less of it than a lot of people, than probably most people. Part of it's because of the show. I didn't used to be that way. I used to watch a lot of college football, but I don't know, going to cover it'd be like, I mean, Iowa State, the men's basketball team is top 10. They've been top 10 in the country all year. I haven't been to a single Iowa State basketball game this year. I know I got a friend of mine from Cedar Rapids who's come over for an Iowa State basketball. He's a huge Hawkeye fan. He wants to see a top 10 team. I'm like, I don't care. I've watched like one or two Iowa State games because they've been on TV and I've had nothing else to do. So, what I love is when Iowa plays an event in Ames. That's what I love when the Cyhawk game is in Ames, because then I'm able to be there and be there as a fan. I've been there as a fan. I've never covered a Cyhawk game formally as a media member. I'm there in the arena or in the stadium, and I enjoy that. I will say this: Iowa State. You probably don't know anything about this because you're not here, but Iowa State's putting a lot of money in this new Cytown thing, and it sounds like they're trying to sort of make it look like what the outside of the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City is, where they have the Big 12 tournament. They're going to have businesses. They're going to have I don't know how to describe it. It's supposed to be like a big fan hangout on game day, but there's a lot of money being put into the construction of that facility / blueprint. And so that'll be interesting. Just it's been interesting kind of see the construction going for the last year. Really, they've done a lot of work with the lots, and I don't know when the actual structures are going to be built, but it's going to be interesting. I know there's some controversy about tax dollars and what's being I don't even know what's funding that, how that works. If that's all Iowa State athletic department money, or I don't know. I'd have to do research on that. Again, I don't care. If I cared more, I'd know, Mark. Hey, should I go get my baseball cards out? We can do that. We can just
Not today.
let's just trash the whole programming message. You think people got upset when they had to listen to that late last week during our show?
Well, I don't care if they got upset. I think it's a great. I will do that sometime. We'll
Yeah,
obviously
do
you've
it.
got to clear out your basketball schedule, so we got to wait until at least April. That's a great May, June type
Although
get together.
the women are not projected to go to the national championship for the third straight year, and the men aren't going to projected to make the NCAA tournament. So I may be freer earlier than expected. And by the way, I'm okay with that. I want the Hawkeyes to go as far as possible. I hope the women make it to the second weekend, maybe even to the third weekend. Unlikely, but hope it happens. But man, I made this comment to our lovely women's basketball co-host the other day, Kasheen Alexander. I said, man, there's been talk about Caitlin Clark playing a lot of basketball because of the way the seasons work out. She played in 2 straight national championships. Then the draft is like right after the end of women's college basketball. It's really stupid because then they start the season shortly after the draft. It's bizarre for rookies to have to go from playing an entire college season, in her case, deep into the postseason to the final game. And then all of a sudden, so people talk about her taking the Olympic break. I'm guessing those were some of the best weeks of her life. since college, just because of the toll it takes on a person's body. And from a person that covers it, nothing like that. But man, it was a lot of basketball to cover. And then also as a Mavs fan and watching the Mavs make a run to the NBA Finals last year, just a lot of basketball. I didn't watch any Indiana Fever, and I've had people, why aren't you watching the Fever? I'm like, again, not to say I don't care. I'll probably try to watch them a little bit more this year because of the Caitlin Clark thing, but you just kind of get a little, at least I do, a little burnout after a while.
That's what happens when you forge a league that you don't consider to be legitimate. So
What
when the
league?
WNBA started, they knew that they
Oh,
couldn't compete against the NBA or
yep.
college basketball. Therefore, they started in the summer.
Yeah, and I understand. Excuse me, I understand that. I understand the reasons why, but there's got to be some adjustments made. And I don't know, when Caitlin was first drafted, and you and I talked about, okay, what's the impact going to have on the sport? I don't know. Obviously, it's had a really positive impact. To what extreme? To what extent? I don't know. But is it enough to where you can? Because that's got to change at some point. Because the thing about it is, though, they line up with college football anyways. They go into October. I think their playoffs are October, November. So what's who cares? I mean, start it earlier. Start it during college basketball. People are in basketball mode. Start it in March and be done in August. I don't know. I think the summer is a good time to play, but can you figure out a way to have a draft to where you get drafted in May and then you have the rest of the I don't know if that's too long of a break.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
not
there's
fair to the athletes, but it's not geared toward the athletes. It's geared toward the fans and the profitability of the league, which is to not compete against other basketball that they
yeah,
are in the best position they've ever been in to compete against. Finally, now because of Caitlin Clark and maybe a
yeah,
few others, but primarily her and her alone.
right.
One quick note on spring practice. It's kind of snuck up on me. We did a Clemson segment this week. We did Alabama today, and them mentioning, "Hey, spring practice is starting on Friday." It kind of snuck up on me with the late national championship game. I may sneak out and try to get to like Florida State, Florida, UCF's just an hour away from me, and maybe cover because I am a college football junkie. Maybe I will go to these other spring practices possibly.
Well, why don't you go over to South Florida as well? Go down to Tampa. Go cover the bowls.
Well, first of all, even when I mentioned UCF, which is the most convenient for me, I don't know that anyone cares that I go to UCF and get a bunch of player interviews and practice footage from UCF. Don't
Well,
know
maybe
that
not.
anyone cares about that.
Yeah.
I may do it anyway, just to get out and meet some new people and spread the word of the voice of college football. But Gainesville is probably 2 hours away. Tallahassee's more like three and a half.
How far is
Miami's a lot further than I thought it was. It's like four
well,
plus.
how far is Tampa if you were to go cover
It's about
USF? That's
3 hours.
not a bad program. And you could go over to Clearwater. You could go check out St. Pete and maybe even go down to Siesta Keys.
Well, I understand that you're making it into a vacation. I'm talking
Yeah.
about a business
Well, but
trip.
you can combine business and pleasure.
Florida State and Florida are worthy trips and they're closer.
Okay. All right.
So
Then
we
don't
would
do it,
start with
Mark.
Florida and go to Florida State. We got our Clemson credentials this week. We heard back from Clemson. So we got some Clemson football spring practice credentials,
Okay.
which
I, I'm
somewhat
look
surprised me.
I'm looking here at the spring practice. I'm trying to find the official start date. Um, so frustrating because you would think it would be easier to find, right?
You
But
would think so.
I don't recall getting any. I
Iowa
don't.
spring practice start. That's what I would put in Google.
Well, yeah, I've done that, and all I can find is the news today that when the spring game is, the open practice.
Okay.
In the past, real quick, in the past, the spring practice has gone exactly well. Like this case, it was March 22nd to April 21st of 2017. So in that case, just trying to see how many weeks is that? 4, 5 weeks? How many? I can't do math. Well, it'd be. Help me out here, Mark. March 22nd. This is 2017.
It's about 4 weeks.
I'm just looking at the so I can have it in my own head. Yeah, March 22nd to April 21st. So yeah, in the past they've started on a Wednesday, and yeah, so if we're sticking to that, then I would guess since this year they're finishing on the 26th, so that means they're starting on the 26th. Why am I? That can't be right.
We're in the
26th.
weeds at this point.
Yeah, I'm guessing they start on March 25th or 26th, or 27th, somewhere in
Okay.
there, that week.
Okay, so it's going to be a while. All right.
Yeah, I would think.